Hi guys, welcome to another roster review by Glasshammer Gaming. I am Manny, and today I've got a pretty special one for you. I am reviewing the Sisters of Battle army that I played for Team England at the World Team Championships this weekend. Guys, if you are watching this at the time that it's been released, the WTC has just finished, probably about an hour ago. Fingers crossed we've won. So, of course, I am filming this like 3 days before the World Team Championships because I wanted to drop it as soon as the tournament is over. So, fingers crossed we've won. You know, guys, pray for us. And yeah, so this is the list that I took as part of Team England. I am the Sisters of Battle player for Team England this year at the World Team Championships. And I'm just going to run you through how it all works, how we can tackle it, and if you want to play the army but not the exact same list, what we could do to modify it. So, as always, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, notifications bell in the corner over there so you know each time I release one of these videos. And if you enjoy the content and you like more exclusive content, amazing discounts off our web store, or if you like what we do here and you just like to support the channel, then please head over to glasshammergaming.co.uk and join the elite. Right, section 1 of 4. Let's get right into it. So first of all is the army list. What actually is in the army list? Let's have a look. So all fits into one battalion. I really like it fitting into one battalion with the new CP rules and things like that. Don't get me wrong, I would love to have more fast attacks. The fast attack slots for Sisters are so good. Seraphim are great, Zephyrim are great, Dominions are great. You've got all like these 3 units that are absolutely fantastic. You want to take multiples of all of them, but you've only got 3 fast attack slots in a battalion. So you kind of got to take the ones that you think are best suited for specific roles within your army list. So what I've got is 1 battalion, just to keep my CP costs fairly low. I have got Saint Celestine as one of the HQs in there. She does not have a warlord trait. She's just as she is because she's a great tool. And we're going to come to what she does for the list in the how it works section. We've got Morven Val, and she has her warlord trait. I believe it's called Righteous Rage. Gives her full rerolls to hit and wound in combat. I then have a Canoness. This Canoness, she's so cool. I love that model. But yeah, the Canoness is actually really cool. She's got the point upgrade Word of the Emperor. She has got the Blade of St. Eleanor, which is the flat 3 damage blade, costs me a CP. She also has the Blazing Ire Warlord trait, I believe it's called, the one that lets me advance and charge with her, because it's really important on the turn that I turn invulnerables off with Word of the Emperor. She is able to advance and then charge into something to drop their invuln and everybody else can hit them. That's what she's there for. So she cost me 2 CPs and some extra points, but she's 100% worth it, in my opinion. Then I'll just talk about the last 2 characters before we move on. So number 1 is in a no force organization slot, and that is my Repentia Superior. She's there because she picks a unit of Repentia, lets them advance and charge, which is phenomenal. Also gives them pick 3 dice when rolling a charge. Roll 3 dice for your charge rolls, pick the 2 highest ones. And also, she gives +1 to wound to Repentia if she's within range of them when they go to fight. So that's fantastic. She's great for that, and she doesn't take up a slot. Then I have a Dogmata. She's an elite slot, and basically she's got 2 hymns. The first one is the standard war hymn, so I can use it on a unit on a 3+. In the command phase, roll a dice. On a 3+, that unit gets +1 attack characteristic on the whole squad. Very useful in a Bloody Rose combat army. That's the first thing to mention as well, guys. The army is Bloody Rose, so I get +1 attack on the charge or when I get charged, like first round of combat basically, and I also get an extra AP in combat, which is really handy. So when I can get another attack from a prayer like that, it's very useful. And then her other prayer is the one that I can use on a unit, and then it puts them into an additional battle rite. So I normally choose the Passion as my sacred rite, which gives my whole army exploding 6s to hit in combat, which of course in a combat army is absolutely amazing. But what I can do is I can pick 1 unit on a 3+ every turn. I can pick 1 unit and they can be in an additional sacred rite as well as the Passion, which is really cool. So I could put them in the one where they can deny on a 5-up. So then if somebody takes a psychic secondary, I can deny a 5-up and then a 4-up. We'll come to that in the how it works bit as well. Or I could put somebody into the +1 to advance and charge if I really need to make a charge. And I've got the perfect miracle dice. I say I've got like an 8 and I'm trying to charge from Deep Strike Reserve, but I need a 9 on the charge. I can just go, well, okay, I'm not in the command phase anymore, so I'll spend a CP and use one of her war hymns out of the command phase So I could do it in the end of the movement phase or in the shooting phase after my unit has come in from deep strike. So I could move her, then I could bring my Zephyrim down next to her. Then in the shooting phase, I can use a stratagem for her to automatically intone one him without rolling the dice, just automatically goes off. Put it on the Zephyrim so they get +1 to charge, and all of a sudden my 8 on the miracle dice is enough to make the charge instead of a 9. So it's really, really useful in some, they're very niche like situations, but they can come up quite a lot more often than you think they would, and she's really crucial for those moments. So that's why she's in the list. Then in my troop slots, I've got 2 units of 5 Battle Sisters, just basic, and 1 unit of 10 Novitiates, again, but they have melee weapons because I'm bloody Rose. Then in the other elite slots, other than the Dogmata, I've got 3 units of 7 Repentia, absolutely incredible, and 2 units of 5 Sacrosants. I have actually found them to be game-changing. Then in my fast attack slots, I've got 2 units of 8 Zephyrim, to be smash face units, and then 1 unit of 5 Zephyrim, and we'll come on to why 1 is a 5 in the how it works section. In my heavy support slots, I've got 2 units of Retributors, both just 5-man Retributor units, with 4 multi-melters in each one, and a Cherub, so one of them can fire twice in each squad, and then I have 1 Sororitas Rhino. So that's what's in the list. Now let's have a look at how it all pieces together and works. Right now, so guys, this army has a lot of different like tools and tricks you can use throughout the game to pull some things into your favor when they're looking like they're not going to be and things like that. It's quite a few little tricksy combos you can use with the army, but the basis of how it works is very simple actually, and it's because we're very fortunate players of this faction in that we have some great secondary choices. Our secondaries are better than most. I would say probably the only faction that has better secondaries than us is Necrons. And then Blood Angel secondaries are just as good as ours. So I'd say Blood Angels secondaries are just as good as ours, and Necrons are the only ones that are better than ours. So then our secondaries are next up on that list. So we're joint second on secondaries, and all the other factions are behind us. So we are at a bit of advantage with the secondaries that we have. And the way that this list works is it does specifically some of them. So I always do Defend the Shrine. That's a very, very silly secondary, in my opinion. I think GW needs to change it. It's way too easy. I've used Sisters now. I've used Sisters in like 4 or 5 events and loads of practice days. And that secondary is just ridiculous. Even in bad games, I can score like 12 points on it. So, like it really shouldn't be a thing. Basically, I just pick an objective that's outside of my deployment zone, and if I hold it in my own turn, at the end of my own turn, so I have a chance to clear you off it, I get 3 points a turn. And it's only if my opponent is holding it at the end of the game that I lose 3. And that's it. Other than that, it's just a very easy 12 or 15 points. You're never going to not get 12 or 15 on that, unless you get tabled in like 2 turns, which with this army is very unlikely because of the way you play. You don't actually have to push out there to then get hit very hard. So I really like the fact that it plays the way that it does. So yeah, as I mentioned, you take Defend the Shrine because you just pick the objective that's the closest to your deployment zone. You go, right, this one's only 4 inches out of my deployment zone. I'll do that one, and then you can just walk onto it the turn 1 every single turn from behind a ruin, and you get the points for it. Then the second secondary that you always take is Leap of Faith. Leap of Faith is absolutely phenomenal. That's the only thing I forgot to mention there, guys. It is my Dogmata, has the Warlord trait, where she gets, I believe it's called Beacon of Faith, where she gets 1 additional miracle dice every turn, but only she can use it. But when she uses her dice to do an act of faith, it doesn't stop me from doing another one with somebody else. So I normally just use her dice to advance every turn, and then another unit can still advance in the same turn, like a unit that's going to advance and charge. And that gives me 1 point on Leap of Faith every turn in my turn automatically. So there's 5 points. I only need another 7. So, if I then make a charge with a miracle dice or use a miracle dice when I shoot for damage or something, I go up to 2 points. So it's very, very reliable Leap of Faith. So imagine in my turn, I do that for all 5 turns, just advance her and advance another unit. That's 5 points off the bat. Say in 2 of those turns, I also make a charge, and in 1 of the turns, I use one for a damage roll with shooting. That's now 8 points. I'm getting 8 points on Leap of Faith out of a maximum 12 that I can score in my own turns in 5 turns. And you might think, that's really low actually, 8. But all it takes is 1 or 2 of my opponent's turns when they shoot a unit, I just go, right, I'm going to use this dice on a save. Even if it's a fail of a save, you just use it. If it's a successful save, amazing. If it's a fail on a save, you go, right, I'm going to use it anyway because it gets me a point. In your turn, if I do 1 act of faith, I get a point. But if I do 2 acts of faith, I get 2 points. So there's some big things that you can do like that as well. So you can go, right, I'm on 8 points from my own turns. And then in 2 of your turns, if you shoot something and charge something, that's going to max my score out. So it's like if your opponent kills you, which they need to do to win the game, you're maxing out that secondary. So defend the shrine, you're going to get 12 or 15 by being pretty inactive. Leap of faith again, you're going to get like 12 by being fairly inactive, just sending 1 unit out to charge every turn, which you've got like 9 combat units in this army. You're not going to run out of them. That's fine. And then also the third one, you take raise the banners. In most games, you take raise the banners because you're going to be defending your shrine and there'll be one other objective that's near your deployment zone or in your deployment zone. There'll be one objective in your deployment zone in every single mission. So that one and your shrine one, you should be able to raise 2 banners on and keep them up the entire game basically. And that's 10 points. But of course you could, if you were going second or if you're going first as well in the final turn, you could raise an extra 2 and they're not allowed to take them down because there's no more command phases coming after yours. If you've gone first, they move on to it into their turn when they've gone second, but then they only take it down in the command phase and there's no more command phases. So it's a nice 10 to 12 points on banners, or you can, in some you can do R&D and that's 12 as well. So the amazing thing about how it works is there's these 3 secondaries that you can score passively. That's the key bit of how it's working. Because the shrine, leap of faith, and banners you're doing all from being like 2 inches outside your deployment zone. That's it. So your whole army is sat in ruins in your deployment zone, just outside your deployment zone, getting all these points, just going, right, my primary is most likely going to be 8, 8, 8, 8 for 32 minimum. And then if it's an easy secondary, like hold an objective in no man's land, hold the objective in the middle of the board for 2 points, or something like that, your primaries are normally going to be 10, 10, 10, 10 by being passive. So you're going to get 40 on the primary, and then you're going to go, look, mate, I'm going to get 15 on shrine, 12 on leap of faith, and 10 on banners by standing still. So I'm going to get 37 on that and 40 on my primary. That's 77, plus 10 for painting. I'm going to have 87 points by standing still. Pretty much. By being fairly passive, I'm going to get 87 points. If you want to stop me getting 87 points, you've got to come to out of a possible 100. That's insane. By being passive. And being passive as well, what it does is it denies some of your opponent's secondaries as well. Like if they've got assassinate or no prisoners, they then have to come to you or grind them down. They've got to come to you to kill your units. And then you're just getting even more points because then you can passively kill their units. Or you can then maybe be aggressive and then your primaries start racking up. That's what I found with the list anyway. So far, leading up to the WTC, I've probably played about 30, 35 games with the sisters. There's only 1 game that I've lost. There's quite a few games that I've drawn, actually, on the WTC scale. So that means I've either lost the game by less than 5 points or won the game by less than 5 points. Those are 10-10 draws. So because a lot of my games have been practiced for WTC, I've just been practicing on that scale system, essentially. I did win the Bournemouth Brawl with this army, going 7-0. So it is actually very, very reliable. I've put it on the table multiple times, tweaked it loads of times, and this is how it's come out. And you're going to see there, guys, like if you look at the secondaries and then you look at the units in my army, I've got, when I was been talking about catapulting these units out for charges every turn, I've got 3 units of Repentia, which can advance and charge. I then have got 3 units of Zephyrim, which move 12 inches and then charge, or come in from deep strike and then charge. I have a Rhino, which I can use a 2 CP stratagem for to move before the game 12 inches with Repentia in there. So the Rhino can move 12 before the game. Then I can disembark 3 in my movement phase and move 6. So my Repentia, I've gone 21 inches forward, and then they can still charge from there. And I might have a miracle dice of a 5 or a 6. So there's a lot of threat with the whole, because you might be thinking, well, you relying on going out there and killing stuff for leap of faith, or at least hitting something so you can use a dice for leap of faith, or a charge roll or something like that. And that's why, because you've got these units that can go extremely far and charge. And then Celestine is absolutely incredible against combat armies, guys. I just want to really quickly explain her trick. So I believe the stratagem is called Suffering, Pain and Suffering, something like that. But basically, if Celestine is within engagement range of an enemy unit when that enemy unit is making its attacks, you can spend a CP, use the pain and suffering stratagem, and then any models in that enemy unit which are in engagement range of Celestine's unit, have to strike Celestine. So you've got Celestine and her 2 little Gemini. So you've got 3 models, and if anybody within engagement range of any one of those 3 models has to strike into Celestine's unit, and then it could just save a combat unit. Even if Celestine dies, she's very, very tough. She's got Armor of Contempt, a 4-up invulnerable save, and then so of her 2 Gemini, but as soon as they die, the damage that goes on her is reduced by 1. She's -1 damage as well. So there's 10 wounds there you need to get through, with a 2-up, 4-up, and -1 damage on the last 6 wounds. So she's hard to take down. But even if she does die, because you've kind of like gone in there and protected a unit and been hit by a big one, she can get back up at the end of the phase on 2-up. Now you might be thinking, why do people hit her then? Why are people charging into her? But they're not. So Celestine sits behind or to the side of a very important unit, like say 8 Zephyrim. And then if my opponent charges, say, 7 Sanguinary Guards, I've had this happen before, a unit of 7 Sanguinary Guard charges into my 8 Zephyrim, and Celestine has stood like 4 inches from the Sanguinary Guard now, and Celestine's unit can only intervene 6 inches. So she only intervenes 6 inches, she gets in engagement range of 4 of them, and one of her Gemini gets engagement range of 2 more, so 6 out of the 7 have to strike her. The one that struck into my Zephyrim killed 2, and then the 6 Zephyrim got to hit back and wipe the whole squad of Sanguinary Guard out. But Celestine died, but she saved a whole squad of Zephyrim, and then at the end of the phase I rolled a dice and she rolled a 3, so she got back up. So she didn't die, she got back up. And that's a brilliant way to use the first life of Celestine when you're playing against a combat army. That's that. So that's basically how the list works. You've got all these pieces that are going out trading in combat, and then you've got 2 units of 5 Battle Sisters and a unit of 10 Novitiates being obsec, running around on objectives, getting you your primary points, and if anybody needs to go out into the open and raise a banner, and you don't want to do it with your elite units, those are the first units that go out there. You've got these little 5-man Sacrosanct units. Now they're used late game, or they're used to clear little units that you don't want to send big units out to kill, basically. And that's also why I had that 1 unit of 5 Zephyrim in the army, guys. Is I was finding before I only had 1 unit of Sacrosanct in the army, and also had 3 big units of Zephyrim. So what was happening is, if somebody was putting a chaff unit into the middle, like 4 Kroot Hounds, or 10 Kroot or something like that, I was like, oh, that's awesome. I can just send my 5 Sacrosancts out and they'll kill 10 Kroot. And then they did. They did that, but then they die. And then the next turn, I'm like, oh, they put 10 more Kroot there, but now I need to send 8 Repentia or 8 Zephyrim out there. And that was really hurting, you know, trading like 8 Zephyrim for 10 Kroot. But you had to do it sometimes in the mission. So that's why I've dropped one of the Zephyrims down to a 5-man. It's allowed me to swap some of my Crusaders to a second 5-man Sacrosanct unit, and also given me that 5-man Zephyrim unit with some reach to kill chaff. So now I've got 2 5-man Sacrosanct units and a 5-man Zephyrim. I've got 3 units that I can go and just kill chaff with when I don't want to send my big units out. And then I've got 3 big Smash Face Repentia and 2 big Smash Face Zephyrim units, 5 big Smash Face combat units, plus Celestine and Val. There is just a hell of a lot of combat counterpunch in the army. And I also have those 2 Retributor units. Now they normally don't really come out very often early game. They're a bit of like a deterrent, like a counter. Because remember, guys, the way the army works is by staying passive on a few objectives. So you're kind of waiting for your opponent to come and try and score some of their points before you jump out and hit them. So, and that's going to factor in to the how to tackle it bit as well, because there is one army, possibly 2, but there is definitely one army that can also play just as passively and score more points, and that is Necrons. So this is how this list works. Now you know how it all works. Let's have a look at a couple of ways we could tackle this army if we have to play in an event. Okay, so tackling this army, guys. How are we going to tackle it? It is one of the better factions in the game right now. I'm not going to lie, it genuinely is a very, very good army. I've played it loads and loads of times. It's not unbeatable. I have lost a game or 2 with it. But also in teams as well, I have been shielded from some things. So some things are just obvious bad matchups for me. So those are the things I want to talk about first. And that starts off with Necrons. Necrons is a hard counter to this army. You will win the game if you play Necrons into this and you play it fairly well, depending on what your list build-up is like. So Necrons are one of those factions where they have 3 secondaries, which are just as good as mine, and all of theirs can be scored passively as well. But they've got a lot more guns in their army than I have, like 3 Annihilation Barges, Scorpek Destroyer, not Scorpek, Locust Destroyers, the Silent King. They've got all this range threat, which is very reliable, unlike me. So I have to actually go to them in that game, or they score slightly better than me on their secondaries, or deny a banner of mine for a turn or two, and they're going to win the game. So that just is a thing. Necrons are a counter to the army in general, and definitely double Catan. So I have played against Necrons that don't have any Catans, and actually I can push up on them. I can move my army slowly up into ruins that are in the middle of the board, very slow, like 2 or 3 combat units by turn 3, and then in turn 4 I can like go in there and take out like half of their army sometimes. I've done that a couple of times against armies that don't have any Catan. I've also played against a single Catan, and that game is very hard. Very, very hard, I can tell you. But double Catan is just annihilation for the sisters, basically, guys. If there are 2 Catans, what you can do, guys, is your Catans are going to have different powers to start the game. But every turn, you can use this one stratagem to swap one of the powers that one of your Catans know for one of your choice from the table. So what you do when you play against sisters, guys, if you've got double Catan, what you're going to do is you're going to have Sky of Falling Stars on one of them, and whatever power on one of the others that you're going to, like Transdimensional Thunderbolt. That's the other one that's good and useful in a wider variety of games. So those are the 2 you start with on your 2 different Catans. But then what you do, turn 1, you swap that Transdimensional Thunderbolt for another Sky of Falling Stars. Now, for those of you that don't know, Sky of Falling Stars is insanely powerful. You can pick 3 units. Your Catan chooses 3 units within 24 inches of it. They can be out of line of sight. You don't need to see them. That's why it's so good. Because my army relies on hiding and then catapulting out and hitting things. But even if I'm hidden, they can go, right, I'm going to pick these 3 units that are hidden. And then they roll a d6. And as long as the result of the d6 is less than the number of, well, equal to or less than the number of models in my unit, my unit takes d3 mortal wounds. And loads of my units are 5-man, 7-man, or 8-man. So as long as they don't roll a 6, they auto-fail on a 6. The power does auto-fail on a 6. But as long as they don't roll a 6, I take d3 mortal wounds. So the first Catan goes 8 Zephyrim, 8 Zephyrim, 8 Zephyrim, d3 dead, d3 dead, d3 dead. And then the second Catan goes, right, now you're down to like 6, 6, 6 Zephyrim. I'll pick those units again. And now you're down to like 4, 4, 4 Zephyrim. And as soon as your Zephyrim units are down to 3 or 4, you're then going to take morale checks. And then you don't have the punch to then go forward and kill like 5 Scorpek Destroyers. Whereas 7 or 8 Zephyrim would. And now those Catans will whittle them down. When those Zephyrim come out, they're going to kill like 3 Scorpek Destroyers. And then the rest of their squad's going to get picked up by the other 2, and those Scorpeks can now push into your lines. So it makes a very, very big difference whether you play against a Necron list that's got Catans in or no Catans. So that's it, guys. If you're going to play against if you know that in your meta, people are going to take a lot of sisters, play double Catan in your Necrons. And I also think double Catan is very strong into the current meta as well, especially with the Void Dragon being one of them, considering there are so many Chaos Knight and Imperial Knight players right now, and then sisters as well. Just having double Catans, you're going to be great against 3 armies that are very good in the meta right now. So that's definitely one thing. Building on that, the army doesn't like mortal wounds. We are all 1 wound models, basically. So anything that can do mortal wounds to me, I don't like. Like Tyranids doing that Neuroparasite, really don't like the Neuroparasite power. That was another army that I struggle against is Tyranids, because a lot of Tyranid lists have still got 2 Harpies. So when they go over and they bomb, the Harpies bomb 2 different units. You lose half a squad, you lose half a squad, because it's just 4 ups. And then I'm every 4 up, I'm losing a model because they've all just got 1 wound each. So I can lose a lot to Harpies, but then also you can, if one of your Harpies has got the Synapse ability on it that you buy for it, then a different unit could cast through Synaptic Links Neuroparasite, and then it could go all the way through the Harpy onto my unit, and then go, right, I get to roll a d6 for every model in your unit, and every 4 up is just a mortal wound. Well, every dice that exceeds your toughness is a mortal wound, and I'm toughness 3 on everyone. So every 4 up, that's another, half the models in the squad dead. So the mortal wounds is one thing that my army really, really doesn't like. Another thing is durable combat units. I do struggle against durable combat units. Like, by that I mean something that can stop one of my mechanics. So the reason that my army is so good in combat and so threatening in combat is, of course, the +1 attack on the charge and the extra AP makes them very deadly, but it's all the rerolls I get. Like my Repentia, they hit on 4s, but they always get full rerolls and exploding 6s. So they end up with just as many hits as they have attacks, which is very powerful. And then also Val gives 1 unit full rerolls to wound every single turn, and she gives everyone in 6 inches reroll 1s to hit and wound all the time. So because I have all these rerolls, it makes my combat very reliable. So someone that can like turn off rerolls or only take 3 wounds a phase, I really struggle with that. Like a Catan, like Gazgul, like Abaddon, because I can only do damage in the shooting phase and the combat phase. I don't even have 3 phases where I can do damage. So that's one place where the list falls apart. And another thing is just fast moving obsec, because what fast moving obsec can do is deny some of my banners points. And it could force me to have to take R&D or Achilles secondary, which ideally is not something I want to do. So I'm not saying fast moving obsec is a counter to this. I'm saying it's one way that we could potentially tackle this list and make the list play for more points. Make me have to then come out and go, oh man, I've lost this banner. Or, oh man, he's got, 3x3 Ravenwing units that are really fast and obsec. I can't really take banners because he'll come and take them down. I'll have to take a different secondary, because any choice that you can take off your opponent is always really good. Or when you make them make choices is also very, very good, because they could pick the wrong one. So those are a couple of ways that we could tackle the army. Now let's have a look at a couple of modifications, because I've seen a couple of things that you would want to do, especially in this army if you're to play in singles. Okay guys, into the final section of the video, and that is modifications. Now, bearing in mind, I took this list and wrote the list and tweaked it all to play in a team environment for the World Team Championships. And it works really well in teams. And that's because when you build for a team environment, it's kind of different from building from a singles environment, in that there are some matchups you can be shielded from. If there are 1 or 2, if I tweak of course I could tweak my list to be a bit more all-comers, which is what we're going to talk about, because if we want to take it to singles, we need to tweak it a little bit. And that's a bit more all-comers then, but you become slightly weaker against some things. Whereas in the team event, what my aim is to go, right, I'm going to take these things out. I'm going to go more the way that I have, because now essentially I have like 2 bad matchups, but we could shield me. And that's out of a team of 8. But now the other 6 games, the things I've added, those 6 games are better for me now. So I have like 6 games that I can really score well and potentially win big in, and only 2 bad matchups that we need to try and shield me from. So that's the way that the list was designed and tweaked. But if we're going to play in singles, there are going to be a lot of Necron players now, because that army is bonkers. There are going to be loads of Harpies around because Nids are still very good. So we're going to have to take loads of mortal wounds from things like Catan and Harpies and things like that. So personally, I think what I would do if I was to play in singles now with the same army, I would drop 1 unit of Sacrosanct and I would take a 2nd Rhino in the army, because I think a 2nd Rhino would be very big, because I could hide 2 additional 5-man units in the Rhinos that then can't be hit by a Catan or by Harpies. So that's very key. I think I would definitely take a 2nd Rhino. And also I would take a Hospitaller. I would find the points somewhere to take a Hospitaller. So that's just like tweaking little units down around here or there, or swapping a character out or something like that. But I definitely would try to squeeze a Hospitaller in there, because a Hospitaller would be huge. It gives Sisters units within 3 inches a 6-up feel no pain. So when you get bombed by Harpies, saves a 6 of them. Or when you get hit by Catan mortal wounds, saves a 6 of them as well. But also other damage, like 1 damage attacks, it can be really good for and annoying. You could just have an extra sister left alive. But then also you have a 1 CP stratagem where you can bring D3 models back in a unit. So it could like counter half of what a Harpy does, or it could 1 Sky of Falling Stars from a Catan that goes 3 Zephyrim dead from that squad. You go, well, 2 have come back, or 3 have come back. So that one did nothing. So I think that's 1 modification. Those are 2 modifications that I would definitely make. I would definitely include a 2nd Rhino by dropping some Sacrosancts, and then I would definitely find the points to put a Hospitaller in. Those are really the only changes personally I would make. I know a lot of players really rate the Castigator. Quite a lot of that's 1 modification I'm going to talk about, because I have seen other players do it. People are dropping Celestine, not taking Celestine, and taking a Castigator, because it gives you options in the mirror, I believe. It lets you shoot some stuff, but I'm not a big fan of the Castigator. I prefer Celestine, because she has got me out of so many sticky situations where combat armies have hit me, and then they've been caught by the even after me saying like, guys, remember I have this strat where I can hurriedly intervene 6 inches, and then I have this strat where you can only hit her, but people will forget it in the game, and then she comes out and she does that. Or there's a key moment in the game where, and this is amazing, she lets you multi-charge against combat armies. And what I mean, because people can interrupt, right, when against combat armies, and you don't have a source of fight last in this army. So what you can do is you can charge Zephyrim into something, then you can charge Zephyrim or Repentia into something else with Celestine. And then you can go, I'm going to use Pain and Suffering on Celestine. And then you go, right, I'm going to fight over here first with these Zephyrim and kill this unit. And now if you interrupt over here, you have to attack Celestine, not my other unit, and then my other unit will get to wipe you. So I really think Celestine's a good tool. So personally, I would keep her. So yeah, there you have it, guys. That's quite a few different modifications that you could make if you wanted to play the list a little bit differently. Also, the novitiates is the last thing I want to say. I found them quite good, but just because they were like a 10-man obsec unit. They don't very often get into combat until it's like turn 4 or 5 sometimes. And sometimes they don't even get into combat. They just sit on my backfield objective all game because the 5-man battle sister squads are easier to move up the board hidden to get banners and things. So normally the novitiates are the thing holding my backfield objective. Now, the only reason I like them over 5 sisters is because if somebody does get to my back lines, it's 10 wounds they've got to clear instead of 5. And they're only 20 more points for the whole unit. And also they do have some combat punch. So I like them, but they're not essential. So if you wanted to drop them down to some battle sisters and save yourself 20 points to use somewhere else, that's also a viable option. So there you have it, guys. That is the roster review of my Adepta Sororitas list that I played for Team England at the World Team Championships this past weekend. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've learned loads from it. Please hit the notifications bell and subscribe button in the corner over there so you know each time I release one of these videos. And if you enjoy the content and you like more exclusive content, amazing discounts off our web store, or if you like what we do here and you'd just like to support the channel, then please head over to glasshammergaming.co.uk and join the elite. And also, guys, one thing I do want to mention is if you guys have been playing Sisters and you've been having success with different units to what I have, please share them in the comments below if you found any combos so that all of us can learn together and grow together as better Sisters players, or we know what to watch out against when we play against Sisters. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I'll catch you next week with another roster review. Bye, guys. Live stream Warhammer 40k games, meta-analysis, tournament reports. Hi guys, I'm Manny. I am one of the co-founders of Glasshammer Gaming. I'm one of the current top 5 ranked ITC players in the world, and I play for my international team, Team England, and we are the current reigning world champions. So we started Glasshammer Gaming at the start because we play a very high level, and we realized that a lot of content creators online were more narrative and not really focused on the competitive aspect of the game, and we thought it'd be really cool if we made battle reports, live streams and tactics videos to help players improve in their competitive game, and also for people who are looking to start getting into competitive play, help them along the way and give them some tips. We also have an elite service, and if you join up, you get more in-depth meta-analysis, competitive tournament reports, and even bigger discounts on our store, which are incredible in the first place, and you're basically getting some of the best discounts in the world. If you join up, you also get access to our Discord server, where there are lots of like-minded people who also want to be very competitive and play to the best of their ability, and you'll be added in there with all of them. There are different channels for every army, every faction, so you can talk to other players who play the same armies as you and improve together.